hoping to achieve with a 50% tariffs on the EU?
Well, I think this is, there is no tariff, because what they'll do is they'll send their companies into the U.S. and build their plant.
Trump's pressure is forcing the European Union to make difficult choices. To fold, hold the line, or even escalate the trade dispute.
We were restricted from, essentially restricted from selling cars into the European Union, which is not nice. And I just said it's time that we play the game the way I know how to play the game.
Germany just told America no. But it wasn't just any no, it was what insiders called a polite but absolute refusal. Imagine throwing a party, inviting your richest friend, and they walk in, eat your chips, then say your party's boring. That's the scale of this. Germany's rejection isn't a simple diplomatic shrug. It directly affects billions in U.S. defense contracts and even jobs held by 800,000 Americans. So why does this nice-sounding no thanks carry a billion-dollar punchline? Let's find out how this refusal hits closer to home than you think. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now, back to the video. How does a country saying no thanks with a smile actually end up costing American jobs? That's the weird part. When Germany politely turned down Washington's proposal during recent high-level talks, it wasn't a screaming match or a slam door moment. On the surface, it looked polite, diplomatic, even friendly.
In order to take advantage of the United States, and they've done that. We have a big deficit with them. They sell millions and millions of cars, as you know, Mercedes and BMW and Volkswagen and many others.
On the 9th of July, Donald Trump's punitive tariffs could go into effect unless some last-minute miracle could avoid repercussions for European exporters from cars to pharmaceuticals.
What about the European Union? You said that negotiations are going nowhere. Where are the kind of points where they're
slow moving? I've been saying to everybody, they've treated us very badly over the years. It was formed in order to hurt the United States.
Is there anything the EU can do?
I don't know. We're going to see what happens, but right now it's going on June 1st, and that's the way it is. No, they haven't treated us properly. They haven't treated our country properly.
But underneath that calm, careful wording, you can spot billions of dollars in trade and contracts quietly slipping away from the United States. And when those billions vanish, they don't just hurt boardrooms, they end up hurting workers at American plants, factories, and defense companies. Germany's leadership played it very carefully. They didn't storm out of the negotiation room or wag their finger at the U.S. Instead, they politely, almost casually said no. The U.S. proposal probably seemed straightforward: stronger military commitments, deeper integration of supply chains, and bigger defense purchases. But Germany made it clear in their own soft, diplomatic way that they weren't interested. On paper, that sounds like a regular political disagreement, but if you dig into it, you'll see the shockwaves travel across industries. Here's why the polite tone is so deceptive. The United States counts on defense contracts with allies like Germany. Think massive aircraft deals, missile defense programs, and joint military research. When Berlin smiles and passes on another round of integration, all those contracts don't just pause, they're in danger of collapsing completely. And that brings us to what it feels like. Imagine sitting at dinner with a friend. They're smiling, they're nodding, and then suddenly, with the same smile on their face, they push your plate off the table and onto the floor. The mood feels fine, but your dinner is gone. That's pretty much how America got treated here, and the stakes are way bigger than geopolitics. Germany isn't just another country saying no. It's an industrial heavyweight tied into the U.S. system in ways most people don't realize.
Since taking office for the second time in January, Donald Trump has antagonized the EU more than ever.
We have, I guess, over $12 trillion practically committed. You look at other presidents, they haven't had $1 trillion for a year, for 2 years, for 3 years.
Brussels recently floated the idea of teaming up with the Asia-Pacific trade bloc, which also includes the United Kingdom.
Are you looking for a deal in 9 days? Will you be able to do that, sir?
I'm not looking for a deal. I mean, we've set the deal, it's at 50%. But again, there is no tariff if they build their plant here.
German companies directly employ more than 800,000 people in the United States. We're talking auto plants building cars in South Carolina, chemical companies in Louisiana, advanced industrial equipment in the Midwest. These aren't small operations either. American families rely on those paychecks, and local economies rely on those jobs to keep restaurants, schools, and communities running. Now think about what happens if Germany cools its industrial cooperation with the U.S. automakers will shift investment elsewhere. Machine tool suppliers start sourcing from Asia instead of Ohio. Defense research money quietly dries up. Those layoffs don't show up overnight, but they pile up slowly, like water filling a leaky basement. And before long, the ripple that started with a polite 9 in Berlin hits workers sitting in Tennessee, Alabama, or Michigan. Even more ironic is the fact that Germany is still technically a close ally. They host tens of thousands of U.S. troops on their soil. They rely on American weapons to equip parts of their military. In other words, they're not walking away from the U.S. altogether. They're willing to cooperate, but only on terms that don't pull them deeper into Washington's economic orbit. So while the bases stay open and some weapon deals remain intact, they're putting a wall up around any wider integration America was hoping for. So what does this friendly refusal add up to? Billions that U.S. defense and tech companies thought they could count on are suddenly in question. That polite shake of the head might mean canceled projects, delayed contracts, and lost orders for everything from fighter jets to cybersecurity systems. In the Pentagon and in corporate offices, that's not just a disappointment. That's a hole in the budget, an empty order book, and eventually fewer workers needed on the assembly line. This is why Germany's role hits so hard. Unlike smaller countries that can walk away without leaving a dent, Germany is an industrial engine. Their decision has weight because their economy is tied directly to America's economy. When they back out, it isn't just a Europe problem, it lands directly on communities across the U.S. And the part that should worry Washington? If one big ally's polite refusal can cut this deep, how much worse will it get when other European partners join in the rejection? Germany's soft "no thanks" might sound harmless, but it shows a shift in who's calling the shots between the U.S. and Europe. Washington used to expect allies to follow its lead. Now Berlin is quietly signaling that Europe wants to play by its own rules, and if one of America's closest partners is willing to push back, imagine what that means when smaller EU countries team up. So here's the real question. If America's best friends stop taking its deals, how long before Europe is writing the rules instead? Keep watching Global Moves, because the next rejection could hit your paycheck.